I've talked to you, because the term up until the last couple of years, I think in the work in diversity and inclusion, I've heard and seen Latinx.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, is it Latinx? What is it? And then it was Latina. I heard, and it was mostly I would hear a lot of Hispanic. So I would ask you, I'm like,
yeah.
There's all this identity of
It is
Latin
and
people, individuals, and I'm like, but you're from Ecuador.
I am
are
Ecuadorian. Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
how I want people to ask me. I mean, I don't mind people thinking I'm Hispanic or I'm Latino because I'm proud of both things. But at the end of the day, my identity, my culture is Ecuadorian. Like, my identity is not how I look like. And that's what I tell people. Like, in Ecuador, if you go down to Ecuador, you see people from all colors. And you're like, if you see your football team, you'll be like, oh my God, Antonella, are you really from Ecuador? Because I've seen your football team. And I'm like, yes, I'm from Ecuador. Because that's the truth. I mean, we're just people that play football look a certain way. And then you have the rest of the country. Or then it's a mix because we're conquered by the Spanish. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I tell people, that's my culture, my identity is Ecuadorian. Yeah. I'm Hispanic, I'm Latino, because, that's just what I identify myself with. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to labels, I think it's very important just to ask, what do you identify yourself as?
Or just saying, like, where are you from?
Where are you from? Because if
Tell
they're from Brazil,
about your culture.
Yeah, if they're from Brazil, they're Brazilian. If they're from Peru, they're Peruvian. Yeah. Like, don't make it so difficult. Yeah. Just ask the person, because I'm sure that if you ask them, they're probably going to tell you, and they're going to appreciate that way more than you just assuming that they're from Mexico. And I have, my best friend's actually from Mexico. And she's like, it also gets that stigma where she's like, why is it a bad thing to be from Mexico now?
So do they start stigmatizing the different
now
Central and South American
countries? And now a lot of Hispanics are like, no, I'm not from Mexico. Like, it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be from Mexico. It's just assumption that most people that don't know will make if you speak Spanish.
What are some of the stereotypes and the stigmas that you know that have been placed from you that have, I want to get back more to this, your college experience, but what are some of the stigmas and stereotypes that you've...
When I was in college, someone asked me if I spoke Mexican, and I was like, no, I speak Spanish. Yeah. Oh. And I try to be open-minded. I try to be open-minded and be like, maybe they don't know, so maybe I have to educate them. Yeah. So that's why I tell people, just ask me.
Like your dad said, give them kindness.
Just give them kindness so they can say that you were mean.
Right.
But yeah, I've been asked, do you speak Mexican? Or why don't you like spicy food? And I'm like, I'm from Ecuador. It's different.
Yeah. Gives me gas. I don't like it.
Yeah. And then I'm like, did you know that in Ecuador, we actually also go to Mexican restaurants? I go to my family. I'm like, do you want tacos? Let's go to a Mexican place. Yes.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's good to know, right? Because people here are like, do you want tacos? Or why don't you like spicy food? And I'm like, because it's just not what I eat at home. Yeah. And actually, we made a dish the other day for one of my best friends. She's from Mexico. And she's like, oh my God, this is delicious. And I'm like, yeah, this is Ecuadorian food. It's, it's different. Yeah. So that's one of the things I'm very proud of is our food, and our ceviches are the best.
Ceviche.
Yes.
Okay.
And when my mom comes, next week, we'll make some and invite you,
Okay.
So you can try it because it's so good.
All right.
So
ceviche.
Good.
All
yes.
right. Stay tuned. We're going to tell you all about the ceviche. So stigma stereotypes, it's just like, okay, you're all, everybody's from Mexico. Yes. And you all, and you got to like spicy food.
Yes.
There's these little things that it's
little
like,
things.
No,
so you're like, no.
And they don't get to know each of the cultures of the country. In the United States, we pretty much have a kind of common culture.
Correct. Yeah.
All the little states maybe have their little...
And at the end of the day, I feel like if they were to get to know me, they will know that I'm Antonella from Ecuador, who also loves country music, which is, weird. I've learned to love it. I just love it.
Learned to love
country music. But, people will learn that about me. And then maybe we would have something in common that you maybe didn't know that we had before. Because you just assumed that maybe I only like, I don't know, vallenatos and this like salsa music, which I also like.
I love salsa music.
It is good, to dance, But, it's one of those things that I feel like if people were to know me, they will learn those little things, because once you learn those common things that you have with someone who's from a different culture, you get to have something in common that helps you connect, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, we love people, and we, it's one of the things that kind of brought us together, and that's why we're good friends.
Yeah.
And then you can respect the differences. I don't enjoy much football, but I respect it, and I sit there for 5,000 hours to watch it. It's
American football.
American football. Yes, American football.
Yeah, you always have reciprocated. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've always admired about you is you've always had a way of eloquently educating somebody whenever they have placed some stereotype on you that has nothing to do with you, culture, where you're from, anything. It's like a blanket identity that they just place on you. And I've always been fascinated how you have been able to respond with kindness to these individuals. Like, actually, it's always been a way that you have navigated how you educate them in that space. I've never heard you downplay somebody or degrade somebody for that, but you've always taken the opportunity to educate them.
Absolutely. And I think it has a lot to do, like I was saying before, my culture and how I was brought up, that if it's a question or they just really don't know, then I'm going to tell them. And it always depends on the tone. That's what I tell people. How are you asking these questions? Like, are you being condescending? Or are you assuming when you're saying it? Not everyone's like me. So because we're so diverse, you also have to think about their backgrounds and their experiences. And they might probably respond differently. And that's kind of what happens to, some of my friends, that they don't feel so kind when someone tells them, are you Mexican? They're like, oh no, why do you think I'm Mexican? And I'm more like, oh no, you know what, I'm from Ecuador. Do you know where Ecuador is?